Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Riffhard podcast. My guest today is Donny from Cradle of Filth, obviously a guitar player. They just released the album The Screaming of the Valkyries and are about to go on tour co-headlining the Chaos and Carnage tour. This is a great podcast episode. The dude knows his stuff with music, and we get into it. We go pretty deep. It's longer than usual, and I had a lot of fun. I hope you all enjoy it. Here goes. All right, Donny from Cradle of Filth, welcome to the Riffhard podcast.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
So we were texting, but what's it like being in a European band? As an American,
yeah,
well, British, English band.
there's like only one British person left. It's Danny. That's it. Let's see. Dougal's from Scotland. You got Ashok, who's from Czech Republic. Martin, our drummer, is from Czech Republic. Zoe and I are American. She's from Tucson. I'm from North Carolina. And the biggest thing is how bad the Mexican food is.
Man, it's pretty bad. It's like hilarious.
It really is. It's comically bad, dude. It's amazing. I was telling you this, how I had pretty good tacos actually in Czech Republic, in Brno, which is where Ashok and Martin are from.
I don't know. I have a hard time believing it, but I will take your word. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, no, I
just have a hard time imagining it.
I understand. I totally understand it being like a thing where it's like, there's no way it can be good, especially if you've seen how bad it can be anywhere else. It's like, it's pretty. It gets pretty bad.
Marinara sauce for salsa.
Oh, it's not even that. It's like it tastes like a curry. Like it was like weird.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
You're right though. The further north you go, the funkier it gets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's everything.
Yeah, that is anything.
Yeah. Herring flavored tacos. Like it gets weird. The further you get to like, we grow our food inside of the ground because otherwise it'll freeze. The closer you get to that, the further you get from Mexican food, I think.
Have you had pizza in Sweden?
Oh my God.
This is what we're gonna be talking about. It's just stuff like this.
Yeah. They've got an interesting take on it. Pizza with like bananas, curry, shrimp.
Why are people upset over like pineapple on pizza if like that exists? You know what I'm saying? It's like, hang on, wait a minute, dude. You can't get upset over that because there's like this, and this is like far weirder than pineapple on pizza.
I go to Sweden a lot. I go there about as much as like I know people who don't live in LA but go to LA quite a bit because of business stuff there. Somehow I end up going to Sweden a lot, I guess, because it is kind of like we just work with a lot of people there. There's a lot of metal people who are really awesome there. So I'm there a lot, and I'm aware that a lot of Americans have this fantasy of Sweden of being like this like promised land, like this perfect place. But those Americans have never tried to order pizza there. They haven't seen a menu.
I like the other stuff they have at Sweden though, like the rockmunk. I think that's how you say it. It's like a pancake that has like pork belly and lingonberry next to it. It's pretty good. It's like a potato pancake, I think is what it is. It's really good. It's super good. Yuka
made with potatoes. That's a surprise.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Yuka from Amon Amarth showed that to me, and then I used to guitar tech for Evergrey, so I know a ton of people in like Gothenburg area, and Yuka lives up in Stockholm area. But
there's something in the water there, like for sure.
Right? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the amount of talent in that area is kind of wild. So I think that idea that Americans have about Sweden is actually accurate. Like,
yeah,
the Swedes actually play it down.
They do, don't they? They're so humble with it. And you're like, dude, you're all monsters. Like, whatever. Like, you're so good at music. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. They think that our idea of them having a scene is just blown out of proportion, but it's not that they have a scene. It's that the overall level of musical talent and ability in Sweden across all genres is insanely high.
I think it's because the language has this like pitch to it, and I wonder if that has something to do with like kind of like just ingraining music in everybody, I think, you know.
Could be, because one thing that they are really good at that a lot of other people are not is melody. I think that's something that they have over, like, especially in metal, because like I feel like in metal, the idea of like melodic metal, usually it's not really melodic. Usually it's just like they put some guitar harmonies on something and people are like, oh, it's melodic. Like there's very few actual melodies in metal for various reasons. Not a value judgment, it's just the truth. But the Swedes have figured it out. They're really, really good at it. And when if you listen to other genres of music they make, that's just what they do.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. It's there's a reason why it's like my favorite kind of genre is like melodic death metal, and I was huge in that growing up and stuff, and all my friends listened to like new metal and stuff like that, and I didn't listen to that. I was into like melodic death metal, and I was like the only kid listening to it, so I got made fun of when I was a kid, but like you know, but by even like the other metalheads that I hung out with. But I just always liked it because I liked the melody. That was like the whole like aspect of it just seemed very cool to me, you know.
All right. Before we get back to this episode, I want to take a minute to talk about Riffhard. Riffhard.com, not the Riffhard podcast, because this podcast is actually tied to our online school, Riffhard. And if you're new here, it's the world's best online school for modern metal guitarists. You know, we've got hundreds of lessons from guitar players such as Javier Reyes, Jason Richardson, Wes Hawk, Dan Sugarman, Miles Dimitri Baker. Man, I could just keep on going on. Aaron Marshall from Intervals, Mike Stringer of Spirit Box. I'm reading now because I don't want to leave anybody off. Dean Lamb of Arcspire. It just goes on and on. It's like all the best of the best. And you get tons more than just lessons with them. You get instant access when you join, but there's also all kinds of challenges. Like once a month, we do something like 10-day down picking challenge or a 10-day tremolo picking challenge or a 10-day alternate picking challenge, where we really guide you through the lessons and make sure that everybody is getting better. We're not just giving you these videos and sending you out into the wilderness to fend for yourself. We are right there with you. We also do 6 songwriting challenges. Like we have a monthly one called King of the Riff, where we give you a brief, like write a Spartan war anthem or write a technical death metal song with like some criteria. And there's prizes that include guitars and cables and all kinds of cool gear. And we also have private Facebook and Discord communities of like mind and supportive people, no assholes. That's really, really important to include. Now, with Riffhard, you also get a subscription to Nail the Mix. They live under the same site. So in Nail the Mix, you get to learn how to mix metal. You also get access to Buster Otoholm's Beginner's Guide to Recording Metal. So if you're just playing guitar and trying to record yourself, you have a band and you want to make demos for your band members, or you want to make your own demos, but you just can't get them to sound anything but garbage, or you just can't get past the starting gate, it's too complicated, we've got you covered. Buster Otoholm will show you how to do it. And also, if you want to take it further and actually learn how to mix, there's no place better than Nail the Mix over at URM Academy, and that's all included with Riffhard subscription. All right, so if that sounds interesting, you want to check it out, go to riffhard.com. I'll see you there, and let's get back into this episode. In the new metal era, who were you considering melodic death metal?
I mean, you know, that would have been like At the Gates or like In Flames, like Colony.
What about Carcass?
I didn't listen to much Carcass, but I know who you're talking about. It's funny because I kind of think like some bands that people think like sound like metalcore, like in like 2005, 2008. I remember hearing it for the first time ever and going, oh, it's just melodic death metal.
Like Black Dahlia Murder?
Yeah, like Black Dahlia Murder is like, that's Melodeath to me. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a Melodeath band, but like it's just like Americanized in a way, you know.
I think it was their haircuts at the time, because like I really think that because I remember when they came out and hearing their first few records, and just thinking they're like picking up where At the Gates and Carcass left off, is kind of like the dark side of the melodic stuff. That's kind of where they're continuing. And talking to Brian and like I talked to Ryan Knight a lot about this, like that was the whole thing, is they want to be the best band in the world at that stuff. And that's how they saw themselves. They just happen to have a sense of humor. But for some reason they were called like this metalcore band. It took them a long time to shed that. It took them a long time to be accepted by the metal community.
I always thought that was weird when someone else told me that, like, they're like, oh yeah, they're like a metalcore band. I
thought it was weird too.
I never thought that. I always thought it was it just sounded like Gothenburg riffs to me. I was like, this sounds like the metal that I always liked when I was a kid, you know.
Same here. I never understood that, and I tried to figure it out, and I realized that sometimes people can't get past looks, but I think there's another level to it, which is that a lot of people, it's not that they're tone deaf, they're melody deaf. So they're hearing what kind of, without like being able to like really, it's not a matter of understand intellectually, but they're not hearing the harmonic progressions and the melodic content the way that someone who's not melody deaf is. And so they're just kind of hearing the overall rhythmic vibe and like riff style. And that's where they get the metalcore thing from. Like, and I'm convinced that melody deaf is a thing, and I'm convinced of it from having produced lots of bands. There's some people who you can like play them a note and then another note and try to get them to recreate it, like whether find it on the guitar, sing it, and they just can't. Like it's like being colorblind almost. And I think that's a lot of people. And so they're not hearing the difference. They like, it's not that they are thinking about it much. They just literally can't hear the difference.
It's funny because I read this thing a long time ago, and I was kind of like studying like how to teach, like pedagogy and stuff like that. And like, like I think that if I remember this correctly, it was like whenever someone like up to the age of 16, most people do not have the ability to hear the difference between a half step and pitch. There's like some sort of like neurological connection that has to be made for them to do that. Now, some people develop that earlier, but the majority of people do not develop it until they're 16 years old. And I thought that was a really weird thing because like until you're 16, you're pretty much like tone deaf then. You can't tell the difference between a half step and pitch. And I used to have these younger students that I would actually try this out on when I was, 20 something and teaching at a music store. And, I'd be like, can you hear the difference between this and this? And they couldn't see my hand. And then they were like, no, I can't. And I was like, it was kind of a weird thing. Like some could, but like most of them couldn't, I noticed.
Well, then that makes a lot of sense. And I bet you that's a spectrum. And I bet you there's a whole lot of people who'd never develop that ability or who just develop it later in life.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it is like you can develop it later in life, but I think there are a lot of people that don't develop it. I think you probably develop it if you're surrounded by music. It's probably more something that like, with exposure that you would develop or something like that. And then some people just probably never do,
Yeah, so I grew up around Middle Eastern, Latin American, and classical music. And so the whole step, half step thing was not that I'm aware of, was never an issue. Like,
yeah,
I remember hearing that, hearing something about that a long time ago and it not making any sense to me. Like I remember hearing something about that, like when I was a teenager or something, that most people, only hear whole steps. And that just seems so wild, but
yeah, right.
Kind of makes sense why people start guitar players on pentatonics and why, to me, pentatonics sound like garbage. It just sound like I don't hear the music in them. I mean, sometimes I hear a great player who knows how to use them properly, and can respect it. But to like as a whole, like to me, it just sounds like incomplete. It just sounds like an incomplete set of tools, but that is like the starting point for so many guitar players. And I guess if they are starting as kids and they don't hear half steps well, then of course that makes all the sense.
I use it as a guide for myself. Like it's a point of origin for me on my fretboard. It doesn't mean that I'm going to play a pentatonic scale or anything like that. It just means that this spot is a point of origin. And if I know where that point of origin is, then I know where everything else is on the fretboard. So it's kind of like a cartographer in the sense that you have to like have this point of origin to be able to make the map. Mm-hmm. And that's how I see the pentatonic box is like, this is just my point of origin. If I know where this is, like, then I know where everything else is. And so
you kind of understand the fretboard through the lens of pentatonic boxes?
Well, yeah, but like it's like I use a lot of 3-note per string shapes because I was a big Paul Gilbert nerd when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So, you know, but like it's like I still use the pentatonic 1 box as like the guide as to like, so whenever I learn like a lick or I learn like something, I'm always looking at how far away is this from pentatonic 1.
Interesting.
Because that allows me to like transpose it really quickly and easily.
That makes sense. So I do that with harmonic minor. So I consider harmonic minor my major scale.
Yeah, it's like your home base. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everything in my head like is basically comparing to that. Like, so that's what sounds the most natural to me. If I was just to think of just like a natural where all the notes want to land.
Yeah.
Without tweaking anything, it would be harmonic minor, and I use that as my home base, kind of much like the way you just said that you use pentatonics.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've explained this to like students before, where I say like it doesn't matter like what shape you want to use as your home base, you just have to pick one, and if you know where that is and what key that's in, then you can look at like any other lick and go, oh, that's this many positions shifted over from my home base, and then I can play it anywhere on the fretboard in any key, then no problem.
So when you're thinking of music in your head, are you imagining a fretboard?
So I hear the note, and then I can hear the distance from that note to the next note, and then I know what it feels like on the fretboard.
So you're immediately referencing a fretboard?
Yeah. So like if I hear like do, ooh, that's a fifth. So it's like do, so I know that if I'm like, you know, not on the G and the B string, obviously, it's like it's the same fret but the next string. Mm-hmm. And then so like I can just like it's a thing of ear training that I did because I remember taking sight singing classes in college. And I'm always the kind of person that whenever I learn something or I'm forced to like learn something, I try to figure out how I can take that and apply it to something that will benefit me as a guitar player. Mm-hmm. And so sight singing classes was they teach you how to look at some sheet music, they play the first chord, and then you have to sing it. And you have to sing it in solfege syllables. And I wasn't like super good at singing, but I got pretty good at like the pitch reference. So it's like relative pitch is what that is. And basically I can hear like that interval and go, oh, that's a fourth or a fifth, or that's a minor sixth, something like that. And I kind of know where that looks like on the fretboard. So whenever I hear like a distance from one note to the next note, I'm seeing a fretboard in my head as to where it would be from the previous note that I played.
Those sight singing classes, while they were a little bit humiliating because I hate singing,
they really are, aren't they?
Yeah, they're super humiliating. Also because the solfege stuff, I remember from being like a little kid and learning violin, like as a like really, really young. So then to be like 18 or 19 and singing like that, it felt humiliating. But I got to say that's some of the most helpful stuff I've ever learned. And I kind of did something similar to where I would learn to sing it the way they said, but then I would also try to apply it to guitar to be able to hear it and then play it while also singing it, but not have the fretboard guide my voice, like have my voice guide what I was playing on the fretboard. That helped tremendously.
That's
Everyone
brilliant.
should do it. Everyone should do it.
I say that all the time. I tell everyone the most important thing I ever learned musically ever was just like, sight singing of some sort, like just ear training of some sort is like super, super helpful. It's like insane, you know?
Yeah, I never got past the first semester either. Like the first semester basically set me up for life.
Yeah, it's kind of all you need, I think, honestly.
Mhm.
I didn't finish college. I left and
Same.
you know.
Why'd you leave?
So I initially went to school before I went to college. My college is like kind of like scattered about. It's like all over the place. I first went to a community college and I studied music at this community college, and I just lucked out that the guy who was there was like amazing. He was a session player for like Alison Krauss, and he was just a professor teaching music theory at a community college. And I got obsessed with theory and just blasted through all of it. And then I went to school for audio engineering in Phoenix, and I worked at a studio for a bit, and then I went back to school, and I went to a university this time, and they wouldn't let me transfer my music theory, so like I had to like retake it all over again.
Motherfuckers.
It was there's a song I wrote despite my professor. Actually, it's an Eighth Realm song now, but
Man, that was one of the reasons that I really, really got off on the wrong foot at Berkeley was because, so in high school I did the IB and I did IB music. And so we were doing some pretty advanced stuff by the time I got out of high school.
yeah.
Like we were doing, like I had a college professor as my IB music instructor, and I was the only person in the class. So basically I had several years.
That's like a normal music theory class. Like
Yeah. True. That's funny. But like it was pretty advanced, and I know that people who got the IB were able to go to like real schools and like skip years 1 and 2 and go straight to their majors. But then I go to Berkeley and nothing transfers. They don't count any of it. So they put me in all their general education classes, which were on the level of what we did in 8th grade. Like, sitting there having to learn how to write a 5-paragraph essay. And then none of my IB music stuff, they didn't care about any of it. So they put me in level 1 for everything. And so I was pissed, and I felt like it was a giant waste of time. And so it got off on the wrong foot.
that's like putting Stephen Hawking in like college algebra.
I won't go that far. I would not go that far, but I knew how to write a 5-paragraph essay.
Yeah.
They were reading Animal Farm, which was for instance, which great book, but like that was what we read in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Not freshman year of college. And so, and they put me on a level with people who auditioned in learning like Green Day songs. So it was, super frustrating. So just all that to say that I understand your frustration with transferring to a university and then them not counting any of the work you did leading in, even though you already knew that stuff.
Yeah, it was like I remember being in theory 2 and we're doing like suspensions, and it's like, okay, here's a 4/3 suspension or something, and I'm like, okay. And I'm just like, this is the most boring thing ever. Like I literally got like, by the time I finished theory with this other guy, we were analyzing Bach fugues. Like this is this is like the most basic thing imaginable. And I was like, this is ridiculous. But my teacher was cool. He was my composition teacher as well. So my final is I wrote an acoustic guitar piece that I even like analyzed and gave everyone the class sheet music for it. And it had like Neapolitan chords and stuff like stuff that they wouldn't even talk about in theory 2. You'd be like theory 3 or 4 or something like that. And had some pretty cool advanced stuff in it, and sounded great. It was very melodically pleasing, because I like the manipulation of it. It's like, it feels like I'm playing with like Legos or something to me. Mm-hmm. So, and then he saw me after I performed it, and he was like, hey, look, I get what you're saying. So you don't have to really come to theory class anymore if you don't want to, but it'd be cool if you could hang out and help everyone else, and I'll give you an A. I was like, okay, I'll take that deal, dude.
That's cool. That's actually, I had a theory teacher when I got to Berkeley where I was like, I didn't show up to class after the first 2 weeks, but then I showed up to the midterm and I got like 110 on it. And the very next day, I got a slip in my mailbox with a W for withdraw. Like, she basically kicked me out of the class and for attendance. So I went to her and was like, yo, I just got 110 on this midterm. I don't know why I'm in your class, but it's not cool for you to basically fail me from this and prevent me from advancing when you know that I already know this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wasting my time being in the class. So can we work this out? And she was cool about it. She wasn't connecting the dots, I guess. She just looked at attendance and didn't like look at scores. Wasn't thinking that it was the same person or anything.
What was Berkeley? I wanted to go to Berkeley when I was younger, but I didn't think that I was good enough. And apparently a lot of my friends who went to Berkeley laugh at me for being that dumb about it, I guess. But like,
you were good enough.
I didn't think I was. I didn't think I was good enough.
That's one of the wildest things about Berkeley, at least back when I went, was people were like, ooh, you got into the prestigious Berkeley College of Music. Wow. It's like, wow. Like, you should see, if you want to be really impressed, you should see the dude who auditioned right before me with a Green Day song and got in.
That's amazing.
Yeah, wow. It's they I don't know anyone who didn't get in. That
okay.
If you can pay, you can get in.
Yeah. I learned that at an older age. Like, you know, if you can afford it, you can get in.
That's it. I think Berkeley now is a lot cooler than Berkeley then. Like, the bassist in Doth is pretty high up in the bass department there. Like, he's a professor there, and he's brought a lot of metal into it. Like, he runs like a metal program basically, and he has them doing stuff that I could have only dreamed of doing, like actually like learning Meshuggah in class. Properly. Like, that would have done. Yeah, right. Like, actually learning how to count that properly.
Yeah, right.
Going to school for that, or going to school and learning some of the highest level metal of the current age. That's what I would have hoped for, because even back then I saw metal as like as legit an art form as anything else, and it pissed me off that it wasn't really respected in school.
It always felt that way to me too. Like, it felt like it was never really respected, and I always felt like it was like an unloved child of somehow with so much promise, like.
But every other genre you can go and excel at. But I think that's changing. I think it's changing with like metalheads now working at those places and getting pretty far up there. And I think also the internet has helped. So there's so many guitar players and musicians and people in metal that are just such incredible musicians who you have platforms now that it's hard to ignore. So I think places like Berkeley are adapting to it.
I always liked whenever I found someone who played a genre that was not metal, but they are a big metal fan because they like musicians who have like virtuosic levels of playing or something of that sort. Mm-hmm. There's the dude from the Midnight, like he is absolutely a monster of a guitar player, and he messaged me and I was like, dude, I love your band. He's like, I love your band. I was like, that's crazy because I think the Midnight's awesome. And he was like, he just, was like a big metalhead the whole time. I didn't realize that, but I mean, kind of
everywhere
was playing, or like I remember living in Nashville, Tennessee for a bit when I was working at that studio after I went to school for audio engineering. And there was like these dudes at a bar and they're just, playing country covers in a bar, making money and stuff. And their drummer is just like way too good for the gig. Like, you could tell he's super good just with like how perfect and precise he is. And then, towards the end of the show, they get a little bit crazier and they just play like Journey or stuff like that, or some like Toto and stuff. And they crushed it. But like the drummer just like does the coolest like double kick rhythm I've ever heard anyone play over a song like that. And I was like, there's no way this guy does not play metal. Like, you know.
Yeah, metal people are everywhere now, and I think that just wasn't the case before.
No.
And metal's gotten so advanced also that now with like metal people literally being everywhere and bringing that level of ability, like it just makes people notice, I think.
Oh, dude, literally, like it's like the coolest thing about it is that metal kind of like has so much room for additional genres in it, because it's like I remember, like, if I go back and I listen to like old R&B songs from the 90s, and I just go, dude, this would be a great metal song because it just sounds so dark already. Like if you just riffed it out or something like that and just, you know, had like a melodeath riff over this, something like that, it would be the sickest song ever, you know. And because it's just like so dark sounding for some reason. And, you know, it's cool. Like you can throw in like lots of like Latin American inspired sounds and stuff, or like even like flamenco, like Spanish type stuff in it. You can toss in, you know, there's all kinds of weird genres in metal that are like, there's folk metal, there's, you know, there's all kinds of weird different variations of it. It's like such a cool sponge. You know, there's fusion stuff that like literally has metal in it now, and vice versa. You know, you go listen to like prog bands and it's like they're just doing really cool fusiony type stuff, you know, which is great. Sure. Of like Alan Holdsworth and stuff like that. And, you know,
but that's what I like about the Aether Realm stuff. There's a lot of unexpected stuff happening there. I was surprised.
That is me. I'm the one that like is big into like smashing stuff together. There's a quote from a guy that I love that's just like, there's, you know, like, and the quote is every song is a folk song because I ain't never heard a horse play a song. And I love that, because I think that like, especially like folk metal always sounds like it's from Scandinavia or something like that, or like it's, you know, Finnish by nature of some sort. You know, you think of like folk metal bands as like Ensiferum comes in mind, or, you know, something like of that nature. But then, you know, it's like I got to think, I was like, well, what if you just had like a banjo and it played like an Americana bluegrass thing in the middle of the song, and like, because that's folk music in the States. But then it's like, well, also like flamenco is folk music, like Afro-Cuban music, that's folk music. You know what I'm saying? It depends on where you're from. And so it's like, why can't I just throw those things in the pot, stir it around, and, you know, make something that comes out that's inherently a different version of melodic death metal with folk metal influences.
Yeah, and it works.
Well, that's like the weird tricky part. It's like it works because, you know, it's like, yeah, it's just, you know, it's the same 7 notes in this scale that people are going to play or whatever, and, you know, it's really like the same thing at the end of the day to me. So I find that like different genres are just kind of like the frame of mind that you put yourself in to make that style sound that way. But at the end of the day, there's only these notes that you're going to use, you know. So there's 12 frets on my guitar. That's all of them. That's all there is. You know what I'm saying? It's like all 11 notes are there that you got. That's all of them, you know, unless you're playing like in like music from India, in which case, you know, you have like the stuff that's in between and whatnot, which is cool.
Yeah.
The microphone stuff's crazy.
But it's tough. It is tough, yeah. Genre switching is an interesting topic. Like I remember Mr. Bungle in the 90s were the kings of it. They were so good at it, and so many people tried to imitate them and do the Mr. Bungle thing, and they just sounded terrible. And then I remember Opeth coming along. I mean, you know, Dream Theater was around at that time, so they kind of did it. Yeah. Opeth really did it in a non-music school kind of way, where
it's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's so cool. That was so cool about them, was they were doing this really, really sophisticated genre switching, but it didn't sound like a Berkeley lab. And that was one of my problems with the genre switching bands to this day, is that a lot of them sound like a Berkeley lab. Like it sounds like it goes from metal into something they learned in an arranging class. Like this was their test in Afro-Cuban rhythms, and they're just taking the assignment and putting it into a song. That's like most genre switching bands sound like that to me. But that's what's different about a band like Opeth, where it sounds totally fluid. it sounds just like it belongs. Like it belongs in the song. And so I heard the Aether Realm stuff, was impressed by your ability to do that. So I'm wondering, like, is when you go to a different genre or section like that, where's like, are you thinking of that genre and what goes into that genre, or are you still just, or are you just thinking about the song you're in? Like, how does the blending them together work in your head, if you could describe it?
There's this kind of like thing where like in my head, like everything reminds me of something else. So like if I think of like a simple thing, it's like this like stream of consciousness where this one simple thing can lead me down a path of thinking all like on something completely different. But like to me, they're related because of the chain that got me there. So whenever I'm like a great example is there's a song called "The Devil" that we have from the Terror album, and it's like kind of like I got like a Flesh God Apocalypse vibe to it. But there was like this section, and we were working on it, and I just hated the chord progression, and everyone was like, "This is going to be the solo section," and the other guitar player had already written his solo, and I was like, "Okay," and he was like, "Now this is where you're going to play a solo immediately right after his solo," and it's like it's like two chords, like that's all there is, and I was just like, "This sucks," because like when there's only like two chords, I don't have like a lot of chance to really like try and play something that sounds melodically focused, and I'm such a very melodically focused person when it comes to like writing. So I was just sitting at my computer and I just deleted that whole section out, and I just wrote this, my brain just went, "The Devil, El Diablo, perfect, I'll just do like a Latin American sounding bit here or something." And so I wrote this drum groove. I went, okay, I basically like looked up like different like types of like drum grooves and found one that I was like, this is perfect. This is like the perfect drum groove that would be like an authentic kind of like Brazilian sounding drum groove or something like that. I can't even remember the name of what it was. It started with an M, but anyway. So I just like, looked at the video, watched the drummer play, just midied it out, and then I just played acoustic guitar over it, and I kind of like had this like Rodrigo y Gabriela sound in my head. And then I just kind of like put it together as a joke. And here you go. Here's my solo, dudes. I hate your fucking chord progression, And Jake was like, he's like the singer of the band, and he was like, "Yo, this is actually sick. Can this actually be your solo?" I went, "Fuck. Okay, hang on. Let me actually like record it for real, though." And so that's how it ended up. But like in another example of like, there's a song called "Redneck Vikings from Hell." And that song is just being very hyper, like self-aware of like, it's a bunch of American dudes who are playing what sounds like music from Finland. Because everyone always thinks they're like, "Oh, these guys are from Finland." So much that we actually had a shirt that said "We are not from Finland" on it. But like we, it's just like, how can I make this sound as absolutely ridiculously American as humanly possible? And the idea was, okay, the orchestration has to sound like Aaron Copland, which is like his arrangements are like super American sounding. It's like the Appalachian Spring, stuff like that. It's like the beef. It's what's for dinner commercials. It's like, that's Aaron Copland, right? And so I was like, okay, that has to be like how the orchestration works. But then my dad was like a truck driver for a while. Like he was in the Navy, and then he got out and he was a truck driver for a bit. And he loved listening to, there's a genre, there's a truck driver music. There's a genre of truck driver music. This is an actual thing. And there's a guy who's like the king of it. His name is C.W. McCall. He has a song called Convoy. And I remember hearing this as a kid, and I thought, how absolutely ridiculous would it be if we just had a part that sounded like that? Like just like truck driver music in this song, And the song's already like Redneck Vikings from Hell. It's kind of like poking fun at ourselves and like Pantera and Children of Bodom all at the same time. It's just like, I just can't take anything seriously. Like I'm just like a goofball. So I was like, let me just throw in like whip sounds and like an eagle screeching. It's not even an eagle. It's actually a red tail feathered hawk. It doesn't matter. But
details matter.
BBC stock thing, Yeah. But like, yeah, it's just that. And then I just, comped out the chords and played it. And then we wrote banjo in MIDI, but then we actually had a friend of ours play the banjo on that song also. His name is Wayne Ingram from the band Wilderun. If you like Opeth, you'll like Wilderun. They're amazing.
Noted.
But yeah, and then like it just was like, does this work? And like I just stick it in there and see if it works, and then I go cool, and then move on.
What about the 8-bit stuff or the 8-bit sounding stuff?
Oh, I'm such a video game nerd.
That intro, like it sounded Game Boy-ish, not 100% Game Boy-ish, but like enough to where the first was not. That was the first thing I heard by you guys, and
Sun, the Moon, Star?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm terrible with song titles.
19-minute long song, yeah, but it has a Game Boy. It is a Game Boy. It's actually an.
Oh, okay,
actual,
all right.
It is an actual Game Boy. There is a modded cartridge thing that you can get called Virtual DJ, I think, or something like that, or maybe it's not called Virtual DJ, something like that. But it's a Game Boy. It's legitimately the old one, the DMG model, with the small greenish screen to it, and the buttons like BA. It's like massive. It's the old school one. So we wrote that part out, and then like in MIDI, and then we talked to our friend Eric W. Brown. He's the drummer for the band Necrogoblicon, and he also has a bit core, is that what it's called, or bit tune? I can't remember now. Something like that. It's like a genre of music where it's just 8-bit music, and but it's like metal, And he has a thing called Rainbow Dragon Eyes as a project where he just does 8-bit music like that. So we're like, hey, can you take this MIDI and then just program it in your Game Boy? And then we were on tour with Necrogoblicon, and we had our laptop out, and we just plugged his Game Boy into it and just recorded it. And like that's the sound that you hear on that song.
You just plugged it in, and that's what it spat out.
Yeah, that's literally the headphone output of the Game Boy into the interface into I think it was Jake's laptop on a Logic session. Like just that was really it.
So it really was a Game Boy. That's awesome.
It was 100% a Game Boy. Yeah. I think there was like another layer that we added.
I didn't like. I was like, I didn't want to be wrong, so that's why I was like, maybe it's not a Game Boy, and I tried to convince myself it wasn't. But
no,
my
100%.
First reaction was that's a Game Boy. Awesome.
Then that's great that you knew it was a Game Boy. That's awesome, because that's the goal, is that it's supposed to sound like a video game in a sort. We're massive video game like nerds. I love music and video games. I think it's absolutely amazing. Especially the old school stuff. I think it's incredible.
Castlevania.
I love Castlevania, dude. It's so impressive with like what little they could use, but like make something that's like so cool sounding. And it always sounded like Maiden, like Iron Maiden to me. Like the Mega Man soundtrack always sounded like Iron Maiden to me for some reason. I was about it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, that old Nintendo music is virtuosic as fuck in terms of composition.
Dude, it's crazy. One of the coolest things, and no one ever talks about this. This is like one of the coolest things ever, is the Super Mario soundtrack off of the Super Nintendo. The composer Koji Kondo is his name. When he wrote Super Mario Brothers 3, he had different types of music and different genres for like every single world. And he felt that he wrote too much music for one game. So in Super Mario World, he had this idea in his head where he was going to write as much music as humanly possible using the same melody line. And the majority of the music in that game uses the exact same melody line, but it feels so different that you don't even recognize it until you actually know that, and you go back and you listen to it and you're like, there's no way. And you go listen to like the castle and you're like, wait, that's the same melody line from like the very happy sounding first level, but it's like dark sounding now. And it's brilliant that he does that, because I think it's a good way to like learn how to manipulate the music in a way that can like invoke a completely different emotion, even though it's the same notes being played. You stretch out the notes a little bit longer, and then you add a different chord underneath it, and suddenly the emotion's completely different. You have more atmosphere now and stuff.
That is very impressive, actually.
Oh, I love it. It's stuff like that is, I think, what allows me to be able to like mix genres together in a way that feels cohesive and smooth. And and there's plenty of times where there's a song by Aetherium called Craft and the Creator where it actually references different motifs from old Aetherrealm songs in that song, but the chord progression is different, or like the melody is played on a different instrument than it was initially or something, and it just feels, you know, very different. Because that's a very, to me, that feels like a very like a leitmotif type thing. Like Richard Wagner would do stuff like that. But even like John Williams like does that. You know, you hear like a certain motif and you just have an image in your head immediately. There's the Imperial March, you immediately think, oh, Vader. You know, there's the Force theme, you think, it's, you know, Luke or something like that. There's Leia's theme, stuff like that. But like, it's cool to bring those back in, and they feel like dark, like there's something wrong or sad that's happening to that character. And I think that's a cool thing to do musically, even just in a normal song that's meant to be digested by just regular people and not like music nerds, because, you know, it sounds fresh enough to where like the average person doesn't recognize that you just ripped yourself off. But like, the music nerds go, wait a minute, that's the same theme, but it's cool and it's darker. That's, you know, it's kind of a win-win, I think.
Hans Zimmer just did a really brilliant reharmonization on the Bond theme in the opening of the Bond movie he did during the gun barrel sequence. It starts with the reharmonization, so it is the Bond theme that you recognize, but it's just a little different. It's a little like sadder sounding, and then it like shifts into what you're used to. But it's brilliant. It's brilliantly done. Like reharmonizations and like fucking with the arrangement and the way things fall over time. Like I think is what is the way you're describing, and I think that's very different than the idea of now we're going into the Latin part, and suddenly it's no longer, it has nothing to do with what came before it. It's just now we're in a different genre of music, and I feel like that's what I hear a lot of people doing, where it's not really the composition is continuing. It's more like you like switched radio stations or something.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that because it like, to me, I'm afraid it would sound like riff salad or something like that. And I don't want that. You know, I don't want riff salad. Like that's cool sometimes, but like for me, like you know, it's like anything. It's like, you know, too much of anything is bad, but it's just like you have to like, you know, if you just stick it there and it just, you know, it's like, and I find that the transitions between ideas is like the real sauce in the songs. You know, it's like, I have this idea, and these ideas might not necessarily sound great like this, but how do they sound when it's like smoothed over a part that makes it connected then? Or maybe I need something in between that's another different thing to make those things work. That, you know, that's like my favorite, because it feels like Legos to me. You know, I feel like I'm playing with Legos then, and I love that. It's great.
So, Cradle of Filth.
Yes.
How did that happen?
So I'm okay. So basically, I know a bunch of people, and my name came up. That's pretty much how it happened. But that's basic. That's no. Well,
you know what though? That is actually the best possible answer, because for people listening who are, you know, want to get into a band that's already established, or anything like that's also how anything happens. That's how, if you're in a band and you get taken on tour by a bigger band, or people at a label kind of start talking about you, or really anything in music kind of comes down to, I know a few people and my name came up.
I've always done better by making friends than I ever have by making enemies. So that's just like my whole rule of life in general. And I think it's just more fun to be that way than it is to be, you know, a shitty person.
That's why you should just disappear your enemies. Then you won't have any.
You know, that works too, I guess. Yeah.
Just disappear them.
Yeah, I think I filled in for a band called Veil of Noth
that band is sick.
Oh, that's hard to play. I had to learn it.
Yeah, no shit.
I had to learn it in 3 weeks. I played 70,000 Tons of Metal with Aetherrealm, and Vance gave me like the music like months in advance, but like I did not look at it or touch it. I just was like, okay, let me just practice the Aetherrealm stuff and then do 70K, and then I'll bang that out when I'm done with that. And I had only 3 weeks to learn the set, and it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. It was like, I realized, I was like, okay, that's why Vance sent me this songs months ahead of time, because they're pretty hard to play. And but I was able to do it. I remember like learning the last part of a song in the van, like right before the first show.
Yeah.
And Bryce Butler was filling in on drums also. It was absolutely amazing. And he's a lovely dude. I love hanging out with him. But yeah, like, so I filled in for Veil of Noth. And in my head, I was like, okay, cool. I did that whole thing. That was 2020. It was like the pandemic shut down everything. Like we didn't play our last 2 or 3 shows, but I knew that I could do that. I knew that I could fill in, no problem. And so, I was driving my Nana across the country because she always wanted to go across the country. This was like 22 now. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I've toured the US plenty of times. I know I have like a map of it in my head now at this point, it's fine. And my mom lives in Vegas. So I flew out to Vegas. My Nana had already went to Vegas and she wanted me to drive her back. And I was like, no problem, I'll do that. So I drive my Nana back. I'm in Kansas at the time. And Grant Truesdale from Unleash the Archers calls me on my phone. And the reason I know him is because I did a tour. Aetherium did a tour with Unleash the Archers before. And he goes, hey, dude, do you want to do this Cradle gig? And I thought it was the guitar tech, because I used to guitar tech, and I was supposed to guitar tech for Hypocrisy at the same time. And I went, oh no, dude, I can't tech that. I have a Hypocrisy tech already. And then Grant was like, oh, okay. But then I thought in my head, I was like, that's kind of weird that Grant's asking me. I went, is this to play or is this to guitar tech? And he goes, it's to play. And I went, oh fuck, I'd rather play, dude. Okay, hang on. So I found a guitar tech to replace me for Hypocrisy. I called my tour manager, who was Camden Cruz for that tour. And he plays in Seven Kingdoms is the name of his band, but he's a big TM dude. I met him when I teched for Evergrey. And I called him. I was like, hey, dude, you're going to hate me, man. Like, but I got asked if I could play and fill in for Cradle of Filth on this tour, and I'm going to try to do it, but I don't know if I've got it or not. So just in case, I have another guy, and his name's Donny B. Also, you don't have to change the name on the check, dude. You're fine. Like, so Cam was like, you mean I gotta call Peter and tell him we lost our tech? And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. He's like, okay, I understand, dude. I was like, all right, thanks, man. So I call Grant. Hey, Grant, just let whoever knows that I'm good for it, if possible, 5 minutes later, Des Fafara calls me from Cold Chamber or Devil Driver.
Yeah, because he manages Cradle.
Yeah. I didn't know that. And so he's like, hey, what's up? This is Des. And I was like, from Cold Chamber? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, cool. Hey, what's up? And then he was like, hey, can you learn the songs? And in my head, I thought, well, yeah, I just learned Veil of Noth in 3 weeks, dude. Like, I can play Cradle, no problem, dude. I could do that. Yeah, that's fine. How much time do I have? He's like, it's 4 weeks. I was like, okay, 16 songs, 4 weeks. It's Cradle. It's fine. I got this. No problem. So when I got back home, I just made a spreadsheet of all the songs in that set list. And I just went down the line and kept track of what I learned and had a schedule for when I needed to learn them. And then that way I was able to I was able to have like an extra week of just playing the set, no problem. And then just, that way I knew, like, once I went and played with them, it was like, I'm pretty much like, 1 week into tour already almost. Yep. So it felt good then. And Danny and I got along because we're just silly, goofy people. And like, he asked me if I wanted to stay on, and I was like, sure, no problem. And then they asked me, like, do you want to help us write the next album? I was like, that'd be cool, because I like writing music. It's fun. And and I thought it'd be fun to do it because I write like a lot of orchestral and keys and stuff like that, and I do that in Aetherium. I've always done that my whole life, but I wanted to do that because I heard Cradle of Filth when I was a young kid, and that's what got me into doing that. So it was kind of cool that I got asked to like do that with Cradle of Filth. So it just kind of came full circle for me. But long story short, yeah, I knew some people. They vouched for me at the end of the day.
There's some sick riffs on the new one.
Dude, thanks, man. Yeah. I wanted things to sound like, I want things to sound kind of like old, but new, but like also like a little bit heavier sometimes as well.
I think you pulled it off. Yeah, like it's got the trademark sound, like it's still totally recognizable, but it doesn't sound dated or anything. It sounds like it's of this time, which is a good thing. Like
that's cool, because that's still, what I was really trying to do.
But it's very clearly Cradle. So good job, pulled it off.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not just me that writes the guitar riffs. There's the bassist Dougal writes riffs. Zoe writes keys. I write riffs. Ashok writes riffs. But I find like I'm really good at like kind of like just like, you know, getting stuff out of people, and then like being like, you know, it would be really cool if I had like an idea here that does this thing or something, and then I'll write something there, and then I'll be like, I need something here, but I just don't know what I need. And I was like, hey, do you want to take a stab at it? And they take a stab at it, and they send me like 4 or 5 different ideas, and I go, this one's good. Then we can use that, and then we build off more things and just keep moving forward. And you know, I find that I'm like really good at like getting a lot out of people, and then like putting stuff together, and then like writing guitar riffs that I think are cool. It's weird because going into it, you think, okay, you listen to like old Cradle and stuff like that. It's like, okay, it's so keyboard heavy that you can't really tell what the guitars are doing. And, you know, sometimes when you go try to learn those guitar parts, you're like, wow, that's pretty fucking sloppy. That's pretty bad, dude. Like, I don't even know if they knew what they were doing there. So you just got to try to figure out what
very punk rock.
Yeah, there's some punk bits. Yeah. You know, so close enough for punk rock, but like, you know, and then like, it's like, okay, well, do I want it to be very much like that? Now, Dougal, the Daniel Firth, his name, we just call him Dougal though, because there's too many Dannys. But like, he's the one that like kind of like said like he always thought of Cradle as like a guitar driven band, and that kind of changed the way that I wanted to approach the parts that I'm writing for the album, because it meant that I wanted to write things to be very riff oriented, but it still has to have the orchestral bits to it and stuff, but it has to sound heavy, because I just like when things are just fucking heavy, you know? Like if it's dark and heavy together, it's my favorite. It's like my favorite thing ever, you know? There's nothing that makes me happier in this world than just like something that's just like fucking super sad, dark, and heavy. Like,
it's weird, right?
Yeah.
It's like a happy place for me, for sure.
Yeah.
So when writing that stuff, how do you guys prevent versioning errors with so many people spread out so far?
There's errors. I mean, you can't get around that, you know? Like, we try to tap things out as much as possible, but that doesn't always happen. You know, I'm probably the worst at tabbing out stuff.
No, but I mean, like between the DAW sessions, like when you're sending stuff back and forth, like is there like a master DAW session? Like everything goes to one person, or like, how are you making sure that like the keyboard player isn't playing a version of the song that's like 3 versions outdated?
No, that happened. That happened on this album. That 100% happened. And then I had to fix it. That happened in Malignant Perfection, actually. There's the ending of Malignant Perfection is very weird sounding, and there's a reason why it's weird sounding. Now, it sounds kind of cool and proggy, but that was a mistake, and that had to be saved. What happened was the original version of that, I had it in a DAW where it changes keys towards the end, and it stays in that key, and the outro plays in that key. The key is up a major third from the original key, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of like a immediate modulation type thing, right? But like Scott had copied and pasted the chorus from the first version. I can just pop it here. And then it's like, suddenly it's like these keys don't make any sense anymore. And so it's like, this plays in the key of D minor. This outro is in the key of F sharp minor, which is up a major third. And as soon as like everyone hits the open D and rings it out, the keys just place them. It's like a major third above it, but it's like, what the, you know, and it just sounded wrecked, right? And no one had noticed that, because when we tracked it, the keys were not in there. He goes, and I told him, I was like, hey, this is in a different key. He goes, don't worry about it. I'll get the keys to be fixed. I was like, okay. I was like, well, I wrote those keys, so I know that, that this part is wrong. Like, he goes, don't worry about it. So I'll get them fixed. I was like, okay, cool. Who's going to fix it? He's like, we'll just have Sam fix it. I was like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. No problem. Who orchestrates stuff for us. I send him my MIDI. He just makes it sound cooler with like his better sounding plugins that I've got. And basically, we get the song back, and it's like a couple days where it has to be sent to Napalm Records, like, you know. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, the bass is playing something that makes no sense what's going on here at all. And then I realized, I was like, oh no. I was like, the orchestras and stuff are in F sharp minor, but the bass is playing in D minor. Yep. I was like, no fucking way, dude, this is bad. But strange enough, two of the chords that the bass was implying worked, but it made it feel like D major with like a flat 6 chord in it, which is kind of like a cool sound because it sounds very interesting. Like you're wandering through space kind of vibe to it. Yeah, has a very cool, you know, like ethereal sound to it. I think I'm like, oh, this sounds very, you know, sci-fi. I'm a big sci-fi dork. So I was like, okay, hang on, wait a minute, this is awesome. Wait a minute, maybe we can salvage this. So Dougal and I sat down. We're like, this is a train wreck. We got to figure out what to do. And obviously, there's no time for us to have the keys redone. So what do we do, right? The guitars ring out, but it's just bass and keys are playing. I went, okay, wait, I got this, wait. So I like check out what's going on, and I'm playing chords on here, and I went, okay, wait, if we do this chord, then a tritone substitution here, then it will be in F sharp minor, and then it'll finish in F sharp minor, and then it'll be fine. So like the first bit of the outro is a weird like modal mixture thing, but then the later half of that outro is F sharp minor, but it has like a flat 2 chord in it, which is the tritone substitution. And it gets you there. So I just played the chords for Dougal. I went, Dougal, just play something that implies these chords over this, and it will work. And so he did that, and he sent a DI to Scott, who just dropped it in and then hit bounce and sent it straight to Napalm Records.
and that's a perfect example of where music theory is helpful.
Oh my God, dude. Right? It was a disaster.
Yeah. So music theory saved your ass.
Oh, 100%.
And so when people, you know, you hear all this like negative talk about theory, like it takes your creativity or blah, blah, blah. Like I've never understood that. I've always seen it as a way to communicate with people and a way to solve problems. And a problem like this one, problems like this happen, even if it's not because of a versioning error, just like shit happens. Sometimes it's just you don't know how to get to the next part, the end, or you don't know how to get back to the chorus after the bridge or whatever. Like this is a perfect example of how knowing some theory will save your ass.
It's super helpful, especially in Cradle, because Cradle is a band where each section can be in a different key. And I like that because it feels like the next section, even though it's in a minor key, just feels fresh or like it lifted or something, you know. And you can use that to paint what's going on with the lyrics or something. Like, and that allows you to kind of like make this part sound more uplifting because of like what is being implied here with the lyrics and stuff like that. It allows you to paint with the words also, with like the way that you're crafting the song's vibe and emotional context behind it all. But like the theory helps you get into those things and get back out into the other parts and go back to the beginning, you know. Like there's all kinds of weird key change tricks that I use for Cradle to get in and out of different sections. And you know, there's oftentimes like there's song Demagoguery has this like keyboard part. I wrote that entire keyboard part. I wrote it when it was snowing outside. And it was like one of those like, okay, I have to get out of this like C minor sounding bit into this other part and get back to this key. Like, how do I do this? And you know, I wanted to have like this like orchestral kind of like break where everything drops and it goes to orchestral bit, because like there's songs off of like Midian that do that, and I want to do that because that's like one of my favorite albums. So let's do that. And then like it's like, okay, but like that just goes through so many different key changes to get back into this section, and it was just like I had to play around with it so much to get it to work, to the point to where I didn't even I didn't even know where I was at anymore. I just was like, okay, here, and then I went, and then, oh, perfect. Now it modulates to this. Perfect. We're good. Don't think about it. Let's just move on. Like, but it was one of those like, the theory helps me a lot with that type of thing. It's like I know where I'm beginning, where I want to end. How do I get from this point to this point? I don't like the idea of someone trash talking theory, because I find that anyone who trash talks it doesn't actually think of theory the right way.
Yes.
I say this to a lot of people.
I agree with you.
Music theory is not rules on how to write a song. Music theory is discovered. It's like a way to like explain why the riff smacks. That's all it is. That's all it comes down to. It's discovered. Like we hear something and then we go, oh, that's cool. But why is that cool? And I think that's what theory does, is it allows you to like figure out some sort of reasoning why this works with this. And this is very different sounding than what you're used to. But there's a reason why it works. What is it? And then you can use that to like put something together that is in that same way. Like you might say like, oh, this works because this chord shares 2 notes of this chord and it modulates easily that way. Okay, well, I could do that in a song then if I want to. As long as I know that's the thing that makes this work, then I could just do it in any key I want. It doesn't matter, So
yeah, the thing is, I think people secretly are hoping that there's some formula for good writing that they'll learn through theory. And so when they try to use it in that way and they hit roadblocks or their music sounds like garbage, they don't understand. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's what it is they're trying to use it as a cheat code for writing better music. And the idea of why did you write that? Oh, just because it was awesome. Like that whole idea is really tough for that person to understand. Like why did you put that part there? Well, because it was sick. That's really, really hard.
Yeah.
That's hard for them to take because they want you to have an answer, a theoretical answer that they can just go and recreate. But
yeah,
it doesn't.
I think everyone
really
does want this. Everyone does want that simple solution to everything, don't they? I mean, that's kind of like saying like the hammer will just nail will just put the nail in the wood for you. You know what I'm saying? But you still have to swing the hammer.
Yes.
And like theory is like it's just a tool at the end of the day. Like you still have to like put things together. But like it's like to me, it's like imagining like having a color palette in front of you, right? And that like if I mix these 2 colors together, I'll get this other color. But if you didn't know that, you would just be guessing until you got the right thing. And surely you can do that. But the theory just kind of allows you to like say, well, I need this to be like a mauve or something like that. So I'll just mix these 2 colors together and get mauve, and then perfect, I'm done.
Yeah, but the thing that makes you say this needs to be a mauve, that's theory. Like if you're solving a problem, theory can help you understand, okay, that this color is needed here in order to complete this. But in the initial ideation of the thing, it's not the theory that's going to tell you this needs to be this.
Yeah.
Like that comes from someplace else. Then the theory kind of helps you, like, it's kind of like knowing how to edit. The edit isn't going to be if you're editing drums, the drums, you don't edit the drums into existence. You record the drums into existence, and then you edit them into something better.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, 100%. Like, it is that, because like it's like you said, you still have to do. It's funny though, isn't it? Because it's like there is like the extremes of one end where it's like one person is zero theory but is really good at writing melodic stuff, and there's someone who's like super theory but really bad at writing melodic stuff, and you want to be like here in the middle, and you want to be able to like go back and forth between those two to like solve a situation or a problem, I think. You know what I'm saying? But just to say that that's not necessary. I find honestly most of the time whenever someone doesn't like know a lot of theory and they like write something, it's usually sounds very much like the same thing over and over again, because their ear has heard all these things, and they have learned like these combinations work, but not trying any other different combinations out because they're only using their ear to figure something out. When like you could do that, but then if you do the theory, you can also take things apart, put them together, and then use your ear to try the things out to see if you like how it works or not. And you still have to be creative. You can't just formulaically make something. It doesn't work that way. Like you can't. I mean, granted, you can paint by number if you want. You can go like you can make a 4-chord song and say like pick random numbers between 1 and 6 and just begin with 1 and end with 5, and it will work. Yeah, but it's not good. It's terrible.
And I think some of those players who say they don't know theory but are actually really good and really good writers, they know it. They just don't know that they know it.
You're right. Yeah,
they have their own language for it, but it's in their head.
Jake's that way from Eighth Realm. He claims he doesn't know theory very, very well, but he will say, "Oh, it's the 6th chord." I'm like, "Okay, I know what you mean. Like, what do you mean you don't know theory? You just told me it's the 6th chord. This is the submedian. I know what that is. What do you mean, dude? Like, how do you know what that is?"
Mark Holcomb says he doesn't know any, but the solo that he did for the new Doth record is in like it goes through multiple keys over all kinds of sophisticated chords, like, and he played within the chords great. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He just didn't learn it in school. I don't know how he learned it, but but it's in there.
I find that impressive though. It's like
Me too.
it's like some people like on one side it's like it's all ear. But some people's ear is like so insanely good that like they hear the deconstruction and can piece things together. Which is
it's freakish though. Mentally. So the thing is, for people listening who look up to people like that, I'm equally impressed by people like that.
Yeah, same.
But they're not the norm. They're outliers. That's not normal.
Yeah.
It's not normal to be that good and also have no training whatsoever, and not just be a good player, but be like a good writer and arranger and know how to do this sophisticated stuff. Like that's just not normal. Like it happens, but it's not normal.
It's super rare. It really is. It's like it's really rare to like find someone. It's almost like find someone who's like super good at math and art. It's like that does exist, but like it's super rare, And it's the same thing with like someone who's good at writing and good at arranging and great at playing. Like those 3 things do not very often go together. It's a very, very rare thing. I'm lucky where every now and then I get good arrangements, but I gotta write a lot of bad songs to get a good song sometimes. That's the norm.
And that works though. That's tried and true. Is do a lot, pick the best stuff. I know some people who throw nothing away. That everything they write, according to them, is like keeper. And they're really badass. So I believe them, but I just can't relate. Because I throw away like 75% of what I write.
Oh yeah, there's stuff. I mean, there's a whole song I wrote that didn't make it on the Cradle song or album, and I think maybe it sounded a little too like tech metal, perhaps, and that probably doesn't fit the Cradle mold so much. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that I can't take parts from that and use it for something later on anyway, like it. But so I have it. It's stashed. It's in my folder. It's called the Riff Bank, but like, but yeah, a lot of times you make deposits in the Riff Bank, but sometimes you get to make a withdrawal and you go, wait, this riff that I wrote 5 years ago is like perfect for this idea. And you smack it in there and you're like, this works. And then
well, I think there's a difference between writing something good that just doesn't fit the project versus, the shitty, the shitty stuff you have to get through to get to the good ideas.
Well, yeah, no, that is, I mean, granted, yeah, like if I'm coming with an idea, I just push record and then I just kind of like play, and I'd say probably a good hour of that is worthless.
Yeah, same.
Until I get something good.
Yeah, so something when I'm like critiquing people's songs, because at Riffhard we have this thing King of the Riff every month, where we give them a brief and they write a song or a piece of music within those guidelines, and we get lots of entries. And
that's cool. That sounds
I
fun.
do a stream once a month where I go through like the top 10. But I've listened to all the entries, and one thing and I feel like I can hear this, and I know it because I've done it, and we've all done it, which is you can hear that what they sent was written chronologically, meaning the first idea they had is the first idea you hear, the second idea, and then you can hear that they got warmed up by the third or fourth idea, and the good ideas start happening then. And what they should have done was just deleted everything they did up to there and said, okay, this is not necessarily the beginning of the song, but this is like the beginning of the writing session, right?
Right.
Here.
Yeah.
This is the idea we're going to explore. The rest was just me getting warmed up. But it's hard for writers to do that for some reason, because I guess by the time they get to that fourth idea, it's like the chorus of whatever song they were writing, and it's hard for them to be like, no, everything before this is crap. This whatever's going to happen with this song is going to be based on this.
I really appreciate having someone kind of like riding shotgun with you and just saying like, like this idea is good, that idea is not, like I like when someone does do that, because it is easy to get stuck in the idea of like everything you write is good, but like you have to be pretty honest with yourself. But I find it, because sometimes I have like too many ideas, because I go, oh crap, there's too many options I could do here. I don't know which one I should do, because they all sound good, but it's just like, which one is like the best one? And it's just like, I just need someone else to go, that one. I go, okay, cool, thanks. And done.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. That's my favorite, to have someone just, listen and go, this idea is better than this other one. So do this one. And then this part stays here, but you need something different here. And I go, perfect, no problem, because I can work with that then.
Yeah. Co-writers, or even just like a producer type, is super helpful. Some sort of a person to bounce that off of. Like for me, it's either Jesse Zaretti, our orchestrator, or Krim, our drummer. Like either one of those, they really help with like, you've gone too long on this, or like, instead of going to this, we need to take it in this direction. Mm-hmm. Or I'll send them option A, B, and C. Like, this song could go this direction, or this direction. Which one? And they'll tell me, and I'll just, whatever they say, I'll just 9 out of 10 times I'll just go with what they say, because I trust them, and you can get high off of your own stuff, your own supply, and that's not a good thing. It's weird, because you have to get kind of high off your own music to a degree to get inspired enough to like keep going and like really get into it. But then you also have to be able to separate yourself enough to say this part sucks or this part's not right. And it's hard to do both.
Do you ever find yourself, like when you're writing a song or something like that, and you have like this like section that you've written, and you're like, this part is so fucking sick, and you just keep listening to that part over and over again, but you've done that so much that there's nothing that you can come up with after it now. You're like, you're just stuck with that for like a while.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot. That happens to me so much, actually. Like a lot.
Yeah. I keep telling myself that I'm going to stop doing that and stop listening to those parts over and over. So like the thing I came up with for writing the next Doth record is to not bounce out versions at the end of the night, at the end of a writing session. Just don't bounce it out. Just come back, whether it's the next day or whenever it is that you come back to it, just come back to it fresh.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I might start doing that too. I always I think every time I write a song, I find that if I write the song like this way first, and then start building it this way, that it's better. Because if I start this small section and then build it like this, then it's like I don't know what else to do after this point anymore, because it's just like this part sounds.
It's almost like you've written a beat.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's like beat writing.
Maybe I should just write video game music, that just loops, like 1 minute loops, and then that's.
I mean, there's some pretty amazing video game music.
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah,
yeah. Like, I think there's something to be said for the writing vertically thing. I've noticed that lots of times that it's like you can do other things with it. Like that's like good for videos, and it's good for things outside of just songs.
Yeah,
I think because I've come to the conclusion that I've done that a bunch of times, and then those parts don't end up getting used because they're kind of like complete little universes within themselves. Like there's nothing to do after or before, and they shouldn't go to waste though, because they're good. So maybe there's another use for them, is what I've been thinking lately, because some of those parts are fucking cool.
Yeah. There's one I have right now that's a really cool thing, and Danny loves the idea. It's like a really cool tapping kind of tech metal sounding riff, that's very dark and just aggressive sounding, and it was funny because I just played it. It was something I just came up with, and during sound check, and Martin, our drummer, just starts playing drums over it, and our guitar tech Anthony and Danny just come straight up to the stage, and me, and they go, "Whoa, what is that?" And I went, oh, "This is a tapping riff that I wrote that you guys didn't want to use on this last album that we just finished." He goes, "Wait, but you wrote that, right?" I was like, yeah. He's like, "Okay, cool. We can use that now, like on the next one." I was like, "Okay," but like, all right. But like now I'm like, I stacked it like this, and it sounds so cool, and I just got stuck with it for like months and months and months, until pretty much a couple weeks ago, actually, I found what I wanted to do next. And what I did was I kind of like had this other idea, but I stacked it and stuff like that. And then what I ended up doing was like just kind of like muting different layers that I had in there, and then mute the guitars that I put, because I wrote I write drums first, and I write keys, and then I write guitars. But then what I did is I just wrote it backwards, and I just started muting things and just kind of like wrote things that fit like one of the other instruments instead of having all the extra things to do. So I got rid of like the strings and stuff like that. I just had like little plunky melody line playing, and then just came up with a riff that worked with that. And then I wrote that out, and then went, okay, actually this is what this should be like instead. Because before it was just like kind of like this like trem pick thing, and now it feels like a groovy kind of like riff that's just mean sounding. And I was like, okay, well, hang on, wait, this is like in a different key, but can I get it to work in this? And I was like, well, it's only down a third, it's not that bad. It's like, okay, well, let's just put it here and smooth it out and make it work. And then I went, cool, this works now, perfect. And then now I'm moving forward, and I have more to that song now. But months I only had this cool part, like that was it.
It happens though. We have a song called No Rest, No End that has this Baroque neoclassical thing that happens in the middle. That's basically like it's like a section of a piece, and I had that on its own for a while. Mm-hmm. And you wanted to use it, but how to get it into a song was I don't know. It was about 6 months until I figured out what to do with it. And then we figured it out, but it did exist kind of like as its own thing for a long time. It's interesting. You kind of got to know that it's worth keeping the idea alive. You know what I mean? Like, because when that happens, like, something inside you has to, or feedback from other people has to like keep that idea out from going into the riff bank and staying current. I don't know. And I don't know what it is. Like either you feel really strongly about it, or the people in your band are reacted strongly enough to where it's like, okay, I don't know what to do yet, but this one's not getting deposited quite just yet.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've got it figured out. Almost.
Not always.
Well, no, with this tapping thing, like, sounds like you're getting there.
Oh, that one. Yeah, it's starting to come together. Yeah, like I have like pretty cool sections, and now it's like, okay, like now actually it feels like, okay, I have like enough to like get like the big bulk of it, and it's like now I want to do some things over here and then bring stuff back later on or something, and it's at a point now where I'm starting to think of like the arrangement. And if I can come up with an idea of like a map of like for the arrangement in my head, then that helps me know what needs to go where then.
Yep.
What is it missing? What does it need? What does it not need?
Well, I'm curious to hear what happens with that one. And when are you going on Chaos and Carnage?
My flight is on the 15th into San Francisco. So literally a couple days. So I gotta.
Oh yeah. Okay. So today's the 12th.
There's still one song I have to learn how to play, actually.
All right. Well, you should probably do that.
I'll see if I can... It will take me like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad of a song, so it won't be too hard to. I still have a couple days. So
awesome. I'm gonna try come to say hello if you guys are in town when I'm in town.
Yeah, man. I'm not even sure actually. I have to look at the calendar. I don't have
me too.
So I don't know where I'm going to be.
I don't know either, but there's a few people on that tour I want to see. So maybe we'll hang out. But I think this is a good place to end the episode. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to do this, and the material sick, and hope that Chaos and Carnage goes great.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, absolutely. I hope it'll be fun too. I'm sure it will be because I'm sure there's bands on there I'm really stoked to go hang out and see and stuff.